Welcome to Maple Leaf Numismatics, where we explore the rich history and fascinating stories behind Canada's coinage. Today, we're going to look at the vintage Canadian gold coins, starting from the origin of the Royal Canadian Mint, all the way to the era of the Mint Hoard and Canada's controversial decision to sell its gold reserves. So, let's uncover some hidden treasures of Canadian history. Before the Royal Canadian Mint ever struck its first coin in 1908, Canada had to rely on Great Britain for its currency. From 1858 to 1907, all Canadian coins were minted in London or Birmingham at the Heaton Mint. But as the gold rushes in British Columbia and the Yukon took off, Canadian leaders realized the need for a domestic mint. They wanted to stabilize gold prices, ensure a steady supply of gold reserves, and reduce reliance on foreign coinage. In the late 1800s, gold production in Canada was booming, especially from British Columbia and Yukon, yet all that gold was being exported to the United States. The government believed that having their own mint would help stabilize the gold market and ensure that gold reserves were kept within the country in the form of Canadian coinage. But there was a problem. Canada had never minted its own gold coins. By the turn of the 20th century, the push for a Canadian mint gained momentum. The British government in London was skeptical, thinking Canadian gold coins wouldn't circulate outside the country. They suggested that Canada should mint a universally recognized coin, like the British sovereign. It was eventually agreed that a branch of the Royal Mint would be set up in Ottawa. On January 2, 1908, the Royal Mint's Ottawa branch officially opened its doors. Governor-General Earl Grey himself struck the first coins, a 50-cent piece and a bronze cent. This was a landmark moment in Canada's history, marking the beginning of a national currency system. However, it took another 4 years before Canadian-made gold coins were produced. Between 1912 and 1914, the first Canadian gold coins were struck in $5 and $10 denominations. These coins were the result of the government's desire to create domestic currency that could stand on equal footing with international coins like the U.S. gold dollar. And this was no small feat. The gold used in these coins was mined from Canadian sources, especially from the Klondike in the Yukon. Let's take a closer look at these first Canadian gold coins. The 1912 $5 and $10 coins were designed with a symbol that represented Canada's roots, the coat of arms, which included elements from the 4 original provinces of Canada. This design featured maple leaves and heraldic symbols, tying these coins directly to Canada's identity. The obverse bore the effigy of King George V. These coins were produced using gold mined from Canadian soil, a true representation of the nation's natural resources. In fact, these coins were the first Canadian gold coins minted by the Royal Mint that featured Canadian imagery. At the time, the $5 coin weighed around 8.36 grams, and the $10 coin weighed about 16.72 grams, each made of 90% gold. However, the production of these gold coins didn't last long. As World War I broke out in 1914, the government decided to hoard its gold to finance the war effort. The production of Canadian gold coins ceased, and from then on, Canada shifted to minting gold bars instead. Canada's gold coins disappeared into history, stored away in the vaults of the Bank of Canada. The $5 and $10 coins minted between 1912 and 1914 became rarities, and many of these coins were held in secure storage for decades, virtually forgotten by the public. In 2012, something remarkable happened. The Bank of Canada announced the sale of a 30,000 coin collection that had been stored in its vaults since the 1930s. These coins were part of the Mint Hoard, and they included 1912, 1913, and 1914 $5 and $10 gold coins that had been locked away for more than 75 years. These coins were hand-selected for sale and came with certificates of authenticity, making them a collector's dream. But that wasn't the end of Canada's relationship with gold. In 2016, Canada made a controversial decision that would reshape its gold reserves. The government sold off all of its remaining gold reserves. The country's stockpile of gold, which had once been over 1,000 tons in the 1960s, was reduced to zero. Today, Canada is the only G7 country with no gold reserves. In fact, Canada is now on a short list of just 88 countries that have no gold reserves, a list that includes Angola, Belize, and Tonga. It's a surprising and controversial decision, considering that gold prices have more than doubled since the sale. Had Canada kept its gold, it could have reaped significant profits from the surge in gold value. What does all of this mean for collectors today? Whether you have a 1912 $5 or a 1913 $10 gold coin, you're holding a piece of Canadian history. These coins represent a fleeting moment when Canada's national identity was tied directly to gold. And with the decision to sell off the country's gold reserves, those coins have taken on even more significance. They're not just currency, they're a reminder of a time when Canada held its gold firmly in its hands. Thank you for joining us at Maple Leaf Numismatics with our exploration into Canada's $5 and $10 gold coins.